Red Dead Redemption, at its core, is a game about love, but the developers, being Rockstar and whatnot, really wanted the game to be about hate. And what do gamers hate more than themselves? Zombies. Can you beat Red Dead Redemption's Undead Nightmare DLC with only a torch? Our story begins, like all stories, at the main menu, where I sat for a solid 30 minutes while I had a good cry and prepared myself for the hell I've set up for me. Then you select Undead Nightmare from the menu, and you're greeted with a classic Rockstar opening cinematic. Make no mistake, this game is only for smart horror fans. Those of you who are fake fans will miss the subtle details, like this game beginning in the dead of night. Daddy arrives home to woman and son bickering like fictional family members. Boy gets told to not have too much to think, and old man Willoughby breaks into the house. Then he bites the woman, forcing you to put him down. Problem is, we don't yet have a torch. The only other option is punching the undead man to death and kicking him while he's down. Unfortunately, no matter how many times you punch a zombie, he won't die. I was forced to use the gun. Playable character's wife, a big whale, bit the boy. I tied them both up with a piece of string, locked them both in the master bedroom together for some family time, and set off to figure out what was happening in the world and how to solve it. Still torchless, I rode into Blackwater, the nearest town, just in time to run into the professor and see him get eaten. I knew he was gonna die. Nerds always do. But a cool, manly man like myself who doesn't have a big nose or a perpetual cold always survive. Because I didn't have a torch yet and fisting does nothing, I decided to lasso any zombies who got in my way. Hog tying would take too much time, but simply knocking them over by ripping their feet off from under them buys you a lot of time. This hysterical bitch told me about her long since dead family coming back from getting cigarettes. She gave me a torch and told me to kill her uncle if I saw him. Didn't say what he looked like, so I just kinda ignored that and set off for Blackwater Cemetery. At first, I thought the torch would be just alright, like a melee weapon only playthrough, but it's actually a little better than alright. For one thing, unlike the torches you'd find in a bad game like Elder Scrolls V, these, because Rockstar is a good game, don't burn out. You can hold it forever and ever and never worry about a thing. This is the video game equivalent of plugging an extension cord into itself. At the cemetery, I began burning the coffins and fending off the undead. Another good thing about the torch is that if it comes into contact with any undead, even for a split second, it'll light them on fire and eventually kill them over the course of maybe 8 seconds. It's about how long you'd last on fire. The problem is that this game is by no means designed around melee combat. You can bonk someone with the butt of your gun in a pinch, but it's not meant to be the way you attack. Same goes for the torch. About half the time you try to swing at someone, you'll swing in the wrong direction. With the first of many cemetery cleared, I returned to Blackwater to save the town, which is basically the same thing as a graveyard. There's only so many things you can do with zombies. The only difference here is that you can actually see how many you need to kill. Kill zombies to fill up the bar. When it's filled, a circle becomes filled. Once all circles are filled, you'll have maybe 6 more zombies to kill, then that area is cleared for a day. Now you can actually take more damage than you'd think, but because there's no bar or consistent way to measure how much damage you've taken, I found that deaths often felt cheap. Like I should have been able to take another hit or two. After listening to the most insufferable family of cunts speak to each other for 100% more time than I would have liked, I searched the town for more survivors, found a group who couldn't tell the alive from the dead, they got killed not long after I met them, and headed for one of the big U's on my map. On the way there, I rescued a damsel in distress and brought her back to town to keep her safe. Then I decided that safe wasn't good enough, so I hog-tied her, put her on the back of my horse, and took her back out of town to deliver her to a hungry group of undead friends. In my quest to get her eaten, I cleared out another small town with a torch, got a new gun that I couldn't use, and, fed up with my own bullshit, set her on fire, watched her flail around for a bit, and went on with my day. Then, right next to my objective, I rode into the river and died. The next time, I knew better. I didn't ride off a cliff in the dark. I took it slow and missed the bridge like a civilized jackass. The third time I wasn't even f***ing with no horses. I ran down that hill barefoot, spoke to Seth about the undead. He's gotten real smug since the world ended. So smug that he instructed me to clear out 3 more graveyards. Not long after leaving Seth's compound, I found the most beautiful on-fire horse I'd ever seen. I named it after my own heart, cold and dead, and began working on the next graveyard. The thing about the torch is that there isn't much strategy to it. Your only option is to take a swing or two then run, and these are not super quick to clear out. This was one of the faster ones that took me about 6.5 minutes to completely clear. That might not sound like a lot, but if you get 5 minutes into it and die because some big fat motherfucker punched you in your pelvis and knocked you onto a flaming box causing you to burn to death as you're eaten alive, you'll be pretty frustrated that you'll have to start the entire thing over again. Before starting the next graveyard, I stopped by Fort Mercer to see what nonsense West Nigel Virus was peddling this time. Luckily for all those involved, it was pretty harmless, a self-proclaimed zombie keep-away beverage that did the opposite of what he claimed. We've all made that mistake. To fix the drink, I'd need 10 flowers. I'll tell you now that I didn't get those flowers for a long time, because I got distracted by dying in my underwear in the middle of the night while playing a zombie game. At the second graveyard, I started using my surroundings to my advantage. These burning coffins are like traps in a dungeon in Skyrim. It's not my fault if something runs into it and gets a little heated. It was also in this yard I realized there are no healing items in Undead Nightmare. At least I never found any. This means that running around barefoot and getting gravel stuck in your toenails is your best form of defense against the reanimated death meat bags. With the Bone Orchard back where it belonged, I protected another town from a horde of zombies. This one had 6 circles to fill up, which certainly took a fair amount of time, and, unfortunately, despite the friendly NPCs shooting from rooftops, the bar only increases when you kill something. And of course, if you die before the town is safe, you have to start over. The town was saved. I spoke to the US Marshal, who sent me to find 2 dim-witted dumbest fucking stump deputies. In my epic journey across town, I watched as the real Herbert Moon got torn apart by the monsters, found the deputies, burned them both, informed the Marshal, rescued another town, and started the last graveyard. Spitter Skags are introduced in this graveyard. They're one of the cliché green glowing zombies that shoot their undead goo at you. Even after clearing out the graveyards, Seth had no idea what was happening besides the obvious. Then he swallowed a glass eye. I can't imagine the sensation of a giant glass marble being stuck in your throat is very pleasant. Just take a moment to think about what that would feel like. My next stop in checking in on every big Red Dead Redemption character, if you haven't noticed, that's pretty much what this entire DLC is, along with some probably new characters, was the McFarlane Ranch, where Drew was pulling a Walking Dead by hiding in the undead horror house to avoid talking to his in-laws. Plot twist, Daddy done got by the zombies. I lit him and his friends on fire, left Bonnie to mourn over the sad realization that her father's name was Drew, and I soon found myself deep in the American frozen heartland, where Willie Dunn says he's seen him as Sasquatch. He made it my personal mission to kill half a dozen of them. They're more agile than you'd think for something with an ass like that, and are surprisingly hard to ignite with a torch. With a gun, you just put a bullet in one of their knees, then the other, both elbows, the hands of course, shoulders too, and the ankles, before finishing things off by bouncing all over their soon-to-be corpse with moon shoes until they slip peacefully into the afterlife. With a torch, you've got to put some real effort into catching the flame on their fur. Several deaths later, theirs, not mine, well except the horse, he died too, I found the last remaining Sasquatch. Normally, if something begged for death, I'd let it live to extend its torment, but in this case, because I was still angry that my horse fell to its death, I relieved both my pain and the Sasquatch's burden of life at the same time. After putting on a cut-up rug, I took the role of a pimp by rounding up a retro zombie for McKenna. He has plans for it. To say that finding one was a colossal pain in the ass would be the understatement of the century. Women in labor didn't have to go through as much bullshit as I did in this playthrough. Ancient knowledge says that retchers can commonly be found around Tumbleweed, but me, being me, had the worst luck imaginable and could not for the fucking life of me find one. Maybe I wasted all my luck on getting that horse earlier. After 15 minutes of meandering around Tumbleweed, I had a stroke of genius. Go to the graveyard, wait until a retcher shows up, then die because you're fucking terrible at video games. Try it again, this time in the light of day, or night, I'm not great with directions. Die again for good measure, give up, in favor of dealing with something that can't fight back, and get back to basics by picking flowers. You need 10 total, 5 desert sage, which can be found around Gaptooth Ridge, and 5 violet sunshits, which are across the entire goddamn world in tall trees. And you know what's fun about this game? This is such a great idea for a mechanic. You can only fast travel from towns that have been cleared. Isn't that just so fun? Now because you can't fast travel, Death is sometimes a faster way to get from point A to point B, and it's actually super easy to die in this game because of how realistic it is. A tumble down a mountain you jumped off of is guaranteed to kill you every time, but if it doesn't, the water will. After giving the plants to Nigel, I went to find some parts in Riley's charge. No zombies around there, so ride into camp, find the part, return it to Nigel, and that mission is done. Now, for the next one, you've gotta wait for Nigel. It will take him a few days to get where he's going. The game recommends you check on towns while you wait. I didn't do that. What I did was find a spot where the freaks couldn't reach me and waited in place for a long f***ing time. How long is long? Depends. I like to go by miles, just because it makes me feel better. But 2 hours is what I consider to be a decent alternative to miles. Even with the left trigger taped down on my controller, not that loud red one I showed on Twitter last summer, I broke that one's left trigger in a drunken rampage a month or two ago. I couldn't go more than about 15 minutes without the controller shutting itself off. But like all things, wisdom comes with time, even if you didn't do anything in that time. I learned that I didn't need to wait all that time. The mission triggers when you've completed certain other missions, but the game doesn't tell you that. One of those is that one that called for a Jason Bright to star in an 1860 pornographic video. I got lucky and stumbled across a pair of triplets, snagged one, dropped it off, it got the drop on the movie guy, I ended the lives of everyone around me as I always do, left the director's body on a bed as a memorial, or a joke, and traveled to Fort Mercer to learn about a missing person. Willie was hiding out in a house in the middle of being burglarized. A group of zombies that small is hardly a threat to anyone who's mastered the power of fire. And at long last, I spoke to Nigel one final time. He learned me that I'd need a uniform to ride the Thomas into Mexico. Pixar really pulled out all the stops in this game. To get the uniform, all I had to do was help out a group of soldiers fight off a horde of the undead. It wasn't a town or a graveyard, so the numbers weren't too impossible to deal with. But you've still gotta be careful about being overwhelmed. From there, it was time to ride the rails. I was ordered, asked, same thing, to help shoot at those chasing down the train like animals. Instead, I just stood there and did nothing. Remember, if you ever think you're about to make a mistake, just do nothing instead. Nothing is never as bad as doing something bad. God help you if doing nothing is the bad thing. In Mexico, my first stop was the only mission marker on my map, the nun with a gun. Her job for me was to clear out a town. A big one though, like super big. 9 circles had to be filled. The individual zombie encounters aren't bad, usually. Hit, run, do it again and again while taking as little damage as possible. Nothing inherently difficult, but the different kinds of zombies can work together to annoy you to death. It's pretty demoralizing to get halfway through and just die like some generic not playable character. Second time through I was more careful. I wasn't really, that was an opposite truth. The kingdom was cleansed. The nuns were thankful for the first time in their lives. I found a rotting soldier, gave the nun her present, and dove into hell nose first. The biggest graveyard of all times, Sepulchro, had to be cleared of the dead. If I just gave you the numbers, you'd call me a pussy, and rightfully so. Maybe. This graveyard took me 20 minutes to clear. How many times do you think I died? 3? 4? Not even close. I didn't die one single time. It just took that f***ing long because of how many zombies you have to kill. People who got to use guns in this part have asked if the zombies respawn infinitely. How do you think I feel having done this with a goddamn torch? Not good. Not good. It was stressful as all hell, especially when you've been going for 15 minutes and your brain, that loves you more than you love yourself, starts to cloud your head with thoughts about how death could make you start over. And when I caught on fire, more than once, I really thought that was it. But it wasn't. The graveyard was cleared. I rode for a while, found Landon Ricketts, and this lucky ducky got to go on another scavenger hunt. Personally, I'd prefer a wood chipper, but when do I get what I want? So what did Mr. Cricket need? Dynamite and undead bait. It's a good thing I used all my bait at Sepulchro to lure zombies into on-fire caskets to kill them. Yeah, I did that. I failed the challenge. Shut the f*** up about it, I don't care. Bait is 1 part prairie dog and another part wild fever view. The locations for both are not that far from towns I've saved, but you've got to fast travel to town, run out and find the flowers, run back to town, find a bed, fast travel somewhere new, find the new flowers, get enough of them, then fast travel somewhere else or right off to God knows where. I had enough flowers, the minimum I would need, no more than that, and was off towards a foolproof way to obtain dynamite. I had me a real gamer moment after finding the flowers. There's a small chance that dynamite can be found on a zombie corpse when searched. But, no shops, so no money, no guns, so no need for ammo. Ammo is kind of the currency, but you can't buy items, so no real need for that either. If I can't get anything useful off a body, there's no point in searching for it, unless you knew ahead of time that you'd need the dynamite, so you could have maybe found it by now and hoarded it since you weren't going to use it in combat. To obtain said dynamite, all I had to do was save another town. This one was on the more substantial side, not like the one in Mexico, but still quite large. With the dynamite, I returned to Landon. He gifted me timed firebait, and I returned to Mother Nun. She heard a rumor that the president tried to cast a voodoo spell on his soda to make it never go flat, but it backfired tragically and unleashed a virus on a susceptible population. I'm glad I'm American. I don't have to worry about anything like that. At the president's palace, I began to suspect that the Abraham Reyes might have been a little ill. His whore revealed that everything that was happening was all because of a mask. The Lady of the Night had me escort her down into the caves, where the mask was birthed into this dimension. There were creatures around every corner. I didn't even have enough time between encounters to get all my health back, probably because I chose to just ignore them all. Most of the time, that works out pretty well. Most of the time is not all the time, and this was one of those times where it didn't. In the main chamber, I saw dozens of red dots light up on my minimap. The last time I felt such despair and dread in the pit of my barely functioning colon was when I was 7 and swallowed a nickel. Not that you asked, but my parents still have my nickel. The smallest possible silver lining was that they didn't all charge me at once. I generally only had to deal with 3 to 5 at a time. It wasn't actually that bad. The sudden realization of what I had to do was worse than what actually had to be done. A few more waves of zombies spawned in the last room, and that was all she wrote. I put the mask back on its desk. The woman was gone. Turned out she's actually an Aztec god, and has been pulling a deacon this entire time by appearing in almost every cutscene in this DLC. With the curse lifted, I returned home to see that neither my wife nor son were still dead. Then I woke up as a dead man and did not beat Red Dead Redemption's Undead Nightmare DLC with only a torch. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything, leave a like. Leave a dislike if you didn't enjoy the video or didn't learn anything. Thanks to the champion tier supporters as well as other channel members for making videos like this one possible. Join the Mitten Squad Discord server through a link in the video description. Follow me on Twitter @Mitten Squad. My name is Paul of Mitten Squad. Have a wonderful day.